Hello and welcome to this 10th episode in this Chess Endgame Tactics series, in which the study of endgames and tactics are combined so that you can improve in both of these important areas of chess here. So in this position, I'll put these little endgame studies from White's perspective here. So it's Black's turn to move, but White is trying to push his pawns up the board towards the Black king. So what should Black do here? What would you do in this position to try and slow down White's progress? Well, let's take a look here. So now the evaluation says that it is in White's favor, but in the game we had Rook to G5 being played by Black. So Black uses the forking tactic of attacking both of these pawns at the same time. If we go back one move here, we see that White does have the advantage, and the computer prefers king to h7, or even rook to h1, rook to f1 check. But this move was played in the game, and then the pawn was pushed here. So in this position, now it is definitely showing White ahead here. And the game continued with the rook capturing, and we see that king to g4 is winning here by a large margin, So in the game, king to g4 should have been played, and White would have been winning there. But, sometimes it's tough to see the best moves in the heat of the game. So instead, rook to d8 was played, checking the Black king. And the only move available was king to h7. But then we had king to g4 here, trying to attack the rook. But Black played the surprising move, rook to g5 check here. And we see that, if this rook is captured, well, then it would just lead to an immediate stalemate. So stalemate is a good tactic that you can use, especially when you're losing or you're behind in material, and you may be able to save a draw in the game by using a stalemate tactic, luring your opponent into stalemating you. So, even if the rook wasn't captured, the computer evaluation still shows that Black is able to hold a draw here. As he is close to this pawn, the king should be able to get in here and help stop this pawn from promoting. But let's say, I don't know, king to f4 were played. Well, then this is possible. Rook to g8. And, if the rook is captured, you have king captures. And now the Black king is able to just stay in front of this pawn and prevent it from queening, and the game would lead to a draw. So let's take a look at another stalemate possibility. I'll pull up another endgame here. All right. Number 2. Okay. So in this position, let's see. Once again, it is Black's turn to move. And what would you play here with Black? Take a look at it. Pause the video at any time if you want to think about it longer. If not, let's look at the analysis here. So the evaluation says that White is winning here. But in the game, we had rook to e3 being played by Black. And so, of course, White thought, well, I'll just push my pawn forward and try and promote it. But that leads to an immediate draw here because rook to e1 check forces this rook to capture as the king had nowhere to run, and it leads to a stalemate, surprisingly, of the black king. The pawn cannot move, and the black king has nowhere to go now because of the king cutting off squares. The pawn cuts off this f4 square. So another interesting stalemate tactic that white kind of walked into here. So the lesson to learn is, before you make an obvious move, take a look at everything and just make sure there's not a surprise stalemate tactic there that you could fall into. All right, let's look at the third little end game here. All right, number 3. Okay, hopefully you didn't see the answer there. But in this position, once again, no, actually this time it looks like it is white's turn to move here. So if we look at the position, it looks like black is ahead, this extra pawn. White is close to pushing his pawn forward, but this rook is trying to prevent this h-pawn from promoting, and then there's this extra pawn that black has. But it is white's turn to move here. So what would you play as white? Take a look at it, and as always, pause if you want more time. If not, let's see what happened here. All right, the analysis says that black has the advantage here, obviously, but in the game, c7 is the best move, and that's what is played. So c7 with check, and now here black must be very careful. Of course, the only thing he can do is move his king because he's in check, and he does not want to move to the corner here, or that would lead to an immediate mate by either the rook or the queen jumping up here and promoting. So the king is forced to jump in front of the pawn. But now this sets up a little stalemate tactic possibility. Let's take a look here. So the best move is rook to a1 here for white. And now black must be very careful because there's a stalemate possibility here. So let's say this is played, promotion to a queen. Well, that would allow this move right here, which is kind of surprising. Rook to a8 check. If the king tries to move, well then the pawn can push forward, promote to a queen with check, and it leads to a mate in 9. Black would get chased around the board. But if this rook is captured, that leads to an immediate mate because the rook is cutting off white's escape squares along with this queen, and it just leads to a stalemate tactic here. Now, what should black have done instead of this? Well, if we go back to the beginning, after c7 by white, the king is forced to move, and after this rook moves, there was a better possibility, and that was promoting to a bishop instead. And this shows once that bishop promotion occurs that black is winning here. What is the best move? The computer shows rook to f1. If the rook goes up here and tries to check the black king, now the bishop can capture, and the king will not be stalemated as it will be able to move because the bishop is up here instead of a queen. But anyway, after rook to f1, then we have rook to h8. Black should be winning. It may be a little bit tricky, but he is ahead this extra material here. All right. Well, let's take a look at the next endgame tactical problem. All right. Endgame number 4. Okay, you probably saw the answer by then. So in this problem, it is black's turn to move here. And if we take a look at this, black is ahead with this extra pawn. What would be the best move here for black to play? So think about it and pause the video if you'd like more time. If not, let's see what happened. So the evaluation is slightly in black's favor. And if we look at the lines, it looks like black could play rook to a4, and that would keep him slightly ahead here, attacking this pawn, threatening to capture with a check. But in the game, rook to d3 was played instead. And so after rook to g8 check, the king is forced to move, and then rook to g6, a surprising move. As if this is captured, well, then we just have another stalemate tactic here leading to a draw. So that is to be avoided. But in the game, even if, let's see, oh, excuse me, take that back. Even if king to e7 is played like this, well, then we have rook captures here, captures, king to f3, an attack, rook to g8. And in this position, the game is a draw, as the white king will be able to stay up here in front of this pawn, and the rook will be behind, able to attack the king and keep an eye on the pawn. So it should lead to a drawn endgame. All right, well, I'll take a look at one more little endgame study here. Let's see, number 5. All right, so in this position, it is white's turn to move. White is up by a pawn here, but the rook is behind this pawn, ready to capture. So as white, what would you do in this position? So take a look at this and try and figure out what white's best option is. All right, pause the video if you need more time. If not, I'll take a look at the answers here. So the evaluation, of course, gives white the edge in this game. And so, there are different lines here that can be played. In the game, let's see, we had king to d5 was played in the game, and we see that that leads to a draw. And another surprising stalemate tactic possibility here, which occurred, was this right here. Rook captures on e5, and then the king captures, but now we have f6, a very interesting move indeed. It attacks the king, and if the pawn is captured, well, then it would lead to a stalemate, as the rook is cutting off any escape squares along with these pawns. So if the king moves away, it is a stalemate, or if the king captures this pawn, it just leads to a stalemate. So a very interesting ending indeed to this game. But if we go back and take a closer look at things and see what else may have occurred, let's see, another possibility is capturing here, but then black would just capture, and it looks like this leads to a draw as well. Let's see what other possibilities there are. After rook takes f7, make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, we'll go back to the beginning. So we took a look at king to d5 and the rook capturing the pawn. Another possibility would be rook to e7. And then we have, the rook just moving over to cut off the king. But here, this is what white probably should have played to try and go for the win. After rook to e8, because if now the capture had occurred here with rook takes f7, well, now we have this possibility, rook to d5, and once again, if the king captures, it just leads to a stalemate here. So another stalemate tactic that white would have to watch out for. But instead, to win from the beginning, the game could have played out like this. Rook to e7, then rook to d1, cutting off the king. And now if the rook moves up the board, to prevent trying to capture this pawn and leading to a stalemate, maybe rook to d2 is played, waiting to see what white will do. But now f6 can be played to stop this pawn from pushing forward in the future and kind of limit the spaces that the black king will have. Then after the king moves here, maybe check, king moves out of check, and the pawns will just push forward. If this one is captured, well, then the f pawn pushes forward. Even if he would try and stop this, it can just continue. And anyway, that is how black could have won. So the lessons in this video are watch out for stalemate possibilities, because you may be surprised by your opponent and they'll pull out a draw when you should have won. Or you can use these stalemate tactics to your advantage to try and squeeze out a draw when you're behind. All right, well, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave comments or suggestions. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.